What's going on, everybody? Voidlego here, back for a brand new episode of Chaos Head Noah. Last time on, Takumi was still trying to get a hold of the entire situation, still very confused at everything. But he eventually gets an email from Shogun himself in a very different tone than we've seen from Shogun all these other times, a lot more threatening. Shogun threatens Takumi to meet up with him at the top of one of the major buildings in Shibuya Square, and in order to go on a quest to save Nanami. Of course, Takumi, in fear of this, tries to call Nanami, but he suddenly hears a ringtone within his base. Eventually, he finds a package, opens it up, and he does find Nanami's phone, along with her decapitated hand as well. Fearing the worst, he is left with no choice but to go to Shibuya Square with a Seratan figure in his pocket. So he goes to Scramble Crossing, where there is a surprisingly amount of people that aren't doing anything, along with news vans and casters discussing something along the lines. So he goes up to the top of the building, and he doesn't directly see Shogun. Shogun is in the sky, or covered by darkness. But he tells Takumi to embark on a quest, and if he doesn't succeed, Nanami will go away for a while. And all he has to do is look out the window and simply gain his DL sword. And so that's what Takumi does, with everyone on the ground watching him up from below, trying to gain his DL sword. After a series of choices, and after finally locating it, he tries to do it, but by Seratan's commands, aka his inner consciousness, he can't do it. And in a last fit of rage, in order to somehow get Nanami, he attacks Shogun. But it turns out to be simply an empty wheelchair with a Darth Spider helmet in it as well. So, who knows what the hell is going on by this point? Who set that up? Was it Takumi? Was it the actual new gen killer? What was the point of all of that? And will Takumi ever get his DL sword? I don't know. But my god, last episode was great. That entire section was fantastic, of tension upon tension, of what is going to happen next. And I really thought that was the final chapter, but here we are with chapter 7, Psychopath. So let's get right into it, shall we? Despite midnight quickly approaching, the ticket gates of the subway's Hanazoman line were still filled to the brim with people. The earthquake had violently disrupted the public transportation schedules, and no one was even attempting to hide their frustration as they passed through the ticket gates. Employing a sidelong glance, Ban Yasuji inspected the monitor resting in the station attendant's booth. The station staff had received a call yesterday during their morning operations. The caller had reported that a high school girl wielding a gigantic bladed weapon was going on a rampage in the area. The police had been dispatched in response to this, but upon arriving at the scene, they found no trace of the girl, nor the man who had supposedly been attacked. Ben, who had happened to overhear the story earlier today, was very interested in the appearance of the male victim. The fact that there had been several similar incidents had also caught his attention. This was why Ben was making an appearance here at such an hour. According to his sources, the incident had been captured in full on one of the surveillance cameras. When Ben asked the station attendant to show him the video, they willingly agreed, but warned the detective that the video was a little creepy. Duly noting this, Ben elected to have them show him the video. The video was full of static. Maybe it's from the earthquake, Ben thought to himself. There had been various reports about the earthquake causing citizens to lose hard disk data, leaving Ben to wonder whether it was related. It would be difficult to identify anyone in the recording, as they were just barely visible. The recording featured a single man. He was standing by the wall in the far right-hand corner of the screen. The wall was located slightly far from the ticket gates, meaning passengers would not travel past it very often as they were changing trains. Incidentally, a few other passengers had just crossed in front of the camera. The man's appearance was hard to make out due to the fierce static, but he was fairly short and thin, and he was carrying a large rucksack. One of the carriers. We also did learn about how Noah works in a way of the only way the Nozumi can control people is via carriers, which hold up large sacks full of electronics in order to spread the perception altering like signals via electronic magnetic waves, which is great to know, which makes things, puts a lot more things into perspective. What exactly he was doing, Ben could not say. After about an hour or so had passed in the video, a small change occurred. A few people commuting to work were walking in the direction of the man, and then they swiftly stopped. To Ben, it looked like as if they had been drawn to the man with the rucksack. What was truly strange, however, was that they did not even speak to him. They simply stood there in a daze. The people who had stopped did not seem to be acquaintances of the man. They were of different ages, sexes, statues. There was nothing, absolutely nothing they all shared. What in blazes is going on? Staring at the monitor, Ben tilted his head to the side, and as he did so, a lone girl entered the frame. She had long hair, and she was wearing a uniform from Sumue Academy. The girl headed straight for the man with the rucksack, in a manner that could only be described as exuding nothing but pure, unadulterated confidence. Her movements were entirely unlike those who had stopped before. Instead of halting, the girl pushed aside the people gathered there and seized the man by his collar. For a short period of time, the two of them argued about something. Rather than an argument, however, it was far closer to the girl simply screaming at the man without giving him room for air, or at least that was how it appeared. A few of the people who had stopped seemed to return to their senses and promptly left the scene. Eventually, the girl thrust the man away from her. The girl took a step back from the man who had fallen on his rear, then assumed a strange pose. She lowered her hips and brought both fists next to her ears. The girl worked as if she was holding something, but there was nothing in her hands. According to the report, the girl had been wielding a large blade, but where on earth could she be hiding such a thing? Interesting. So that must have been reported from the guy carrying the rucksack then, if he was able to see the blade. The answer to that soon became apparent. Suddenly the camera shook. It was not static. The rustling hair and clothes of the passers-by made it clear the surveillance camera itself was shaking. Ben gawked at the screen. He had no idea where she had retreated from, but the next thing he knew, the girl was holding a gigantic sword in her hand, one that was longer than she was tall. So he can see it as well? And this was okay. Ooh, what the fuck are these then? If they're actually, because this was on a camera. This is recorded. When the camera shook, so like when the earthquake happened, which I guess is made by Nozumi, right? That's when the sword appeared. Oh, what the fuck? Okay, ooh, this makes things more interesting. I guess delusions into reality, yeah. Ben asked for the tape to be rewound just so he could confirm what he had seen. But no matter what angle he examined it from, the sword appeared to have been conjured out of thin air. The girl had not moved a single muscle. She had remained in her hunched position the entire time. This much was undeniable. The people in the video went into a panic when faced with the sudden appearance of the sword, but the girl did not seem to care about the people around her. The man with the rucksack, however, was very clearly terrified. He just tried desperately to scramble to his feet and run away. But the girl would not allow that. With incredibly agile movement, she pursued the fleeing man and swung her gigantic sword as if it were light as a feather. In a manner akin to a violent windstorm, the sword tore the man's rucksack to pieces. The impact was so strong the man midway collapsed to the ground. Despite this, he appeared uninjured. In fact, when the police officers had arrived on the scene midway after receiving the call, they had not found even a single trace of blood. Oh boy. Then, as if the girl had heard man's murmuring, something that should have been impossible considering it was a recording, she suddenly turned toward the camera. The screen ever so slightly distorted, and the girl's figure disappeared in an instant. It was as if she had never been there to begin with. The man's shredded rucksack had been left behind, and the remnants of it were proof that the girl had been there. It was hard to tell because of the static, but it was clear that the girl had disappeared from the screen in less than a second. Ben rewound the tape again. There was nothing that seemed unnatural about the time displayed in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. In other words, the footage had not been edited. But if that were true, how could Ban explain the girl and the sword? Ban, feeling as though he had seen a ghost, could do nothing more than remain completely and utterly puzzled. How can a regular detective figure all this shit out, huh? Is the question. Alright. A world complete and utter white. And I was lying right in the center of it all. It felt as if I were floating, but I didn't know whether or not I actually was. I couldn't figure out what direction I was facing, not up, nor down, nor left, nor right. The silence was deafening. Felt as if there were hundreds of insects buzzing around in my head at once. Tegarashi. If someone were to tell me that this was the afterlife, I couldn't see myself contesting it. That was how monotonous, simplistic, tranquil, orderly, immaculate, empty, and peaceful the world was. Perhaps this was what the mind of Buddha was like upon reaching enlightenment. It was so incredibly different from my own mind. I wanted to stay here forever. The rash and irritation that came with reality, the loneliness, the pain, the suffering, I didn't want to face any of it anymore. As my thoughts began to cascade, I heard a noise burst into the white world that had previously been silent. The sound of a door being opened, the sound of someone's footsteps getting closer and closer.
Oni, 来たよ。 一緒、一緒。お兄、今日ね、ナナね、いいもの持ってきたんだよ。はい、これ、プレゼント。手編みの帽子なんだよ。すごいでしょ、すごいでしょ。もう冬だしね。ナナね、帽子好きだから編んだの。使ってね。もう。
Damn.
お兄、無視しないでよ。ああ、ご飯残してるじゃん。せっかくのカレーなのに。ちゃんと食べないとダメなんだよ。ねえねえ、病院のご飯って美味しくないって本当？でも食べないとダメ。起きろ、お兄。食べずに寝たら夜になってお腹空いちゃうんだから。
Someone's hand made its way under my back and forcibly shook my body awake. That was when I first realized that my eyes had been closed. When I opened my eyes, a little girl was standing there. It was Nanami, my little sister. But she was awfully little. It was Nanami from a long time ago. But how long ago, I wondered. She must have been at least in elementary school.
Hi, して。
The younger Nanami scooped up some curry with a plastic spoon and offered it to me. And I swapped the hand holding the spoon. Even after all this time, I still didn't know what had been going through my head. But in that moment, I knocked away the tray of curry and rice with my hand and sent it crashing to the floor.
お兄、お行儀悪いんだ。お母さんに言いつけてやるぞ。
Nanami crouched down to the floor and picked up the tray I'd cast aside. She then retrieved a washcloth from the sink in the corner of the room and began cleaning up the mess I'd made.
ほんと、世話が焼けるな。ナナがいないと何にもできないんだから。
That's enough. I covered my face with my hands and slowly closed my eyes.
ごめんね。あなたを守ってあげられなくて。
Wait. I slowly opened my eyes and saw a white ceiling. It was so bright it nearly blinded me. I blinked my eyes a few times. I tried to move my fingertips. I raised my hand in front of my face. Whose voice was that? Was that older Nanami? But it sounded like someone else, though. The palm of my hand created a shadow. At last, I was free from the blinding glare. I had been dreaming, but Nanami, ever since I could remember, she'd had an especially strong will. After the bus accident back in elementary school, I'd stopped talking to anyone and everyone. But even so, that pride in Nanami only became stronger and stronger. Unlike my parents, who were simply overprotective and nothing else, she'd taken care of me all while remaining strict and firm. But that dream... Had I ever been hospitalized before? I'd gone in for checkups, sure, but, well, it was just a dream, so there was no real reason to take it nor the contradiction seriously. I was lying on a bed. It was a white bed with a pipe frame. The sheets were white, the pillows were white, the warm floor was white, the wallpaper was white, the fluorescent lights on the ceiling were white, the curtains covering the windows were white. The small shelf next to the bed was white, the ceramic water pitcher was white, the paper cups were white. I was starting to get fed up with all the white. Mustering up resolved, I attempted to sit up. For a split second, I felt a numbing pain jolt through the area around my waist, but it went away just as suddenly as it appeared. The room was fairly large, at least twice the size of my base, but what really bothered me was how incredibly dreary it was. Maybe it was a hospital room. There was a pair of green slippers lined up right beneath the bed. I was relieved to find a color other than white. My body was moving just fine, and it didn't seem like I was dead either. I was thirsty. I wanted cola. Nice cold, carbonated cola. But there was no way I'd be able to find something like that in this pure white room, so I was forced to pour water directly from the pitcher into my mouth. It was a bit lukewarm, but it was enough to satisfy my thirst. Upon finishing the water, I took a breath. The door then opened, and a nurse wearing white scrubs came into the room. That was enough for me to confirm that I was in a hospital after all. Upon seeing me, her eyes grew slightly wide. She must have thought I would still be asleep.
あら、西條さん、目が覚めたんですね。
Facing me, she gave me a gentle smile, the mark of a true nurse. But something told me I'd seen this person before. Yeah? Oh, I remember her now. She was the grill who had been at the hospital when I'd gone to see Dr. Takashina a while back. What had she said her name was? I couldn't remember, so I stole a glance at the name tag on her chest. Hazuki was written on it. Right, Hazuki-san.
お体の調子はどうですか?
Hazuki-san held out a thermometer to me so naturally I couldn't help but take it.
体温を測ってくださいね。
With how nicely she asked me, I had no choice but to comply. My head was overrun with question marks, but I put the thermometer inside my armpit and none there was. Immediately after I did so, a memory burst to life inside my head. I remembered what had happened. And what the hell happened after? Back then, I had given up on saving Nanami. I had grabbed onto Shogun's wheelchair, but there had been no response. It collapsed in a heap, and when I looked again, all he'd been holding was Darth Spider's helmet. Count Darth Spider, the very embodiment of evil in Spark Wars, his black-clad appearance was famous even in Japan. But I would have never thought that Shogun would cosplay as him, so my anger had been overrun by raw confusion. After that, I'd stood up and looked at the wheelchair, but there had been no one in it. Only a black hood draped over the back of it. That was another part of Darth Spider's costume. I then examined my surroundings one more time, but there had been no one there. I'd been the only one on that pitch-black rooftop. Suddenly, the press that came flooding in at once. They had surrounded me with lights, cameras, and microphones. I had no room to breathe. There had been more than 10 of them in total. I had been so overwhelmed by it all, my terror simply grew and grew. I wanted to run away, but I couldn't move a muscle. I'd been a total mess. Jesus.
結局ニュージェネの犯人は誰なのかわからないということですか？
そのダーススパイダーのヘルメットは何か超能力と関係あるのかな。日常さん、答えてくれませんか。これで終わりなんて言うなら電波ジャックですよ。
結局何がしたかったんです？ニュージェネに便乗した売人行為ですか？不謹慎だと思わないんですか？
ユーリ・ブライトマンさんとは最近話したかな。どんなこと話した？地震とニュージェネについて何か関係あると思いますか？
その手に持っている美少女フィギュアは何らかの儀式的なアイテムと考えていいんですか？
このような行動を取ったことにはアニメやゲームの影響はあったのかな。日常さん、日常君。
The lighting pointed at me had been incredibly hot. It felt as if my skin was being singed by the sun during the hottest part of the summer. The crowd of people from the media made me feel lightheaded. The field of vision had been spinning around in circles. I'd been cornered. I'd been panicking. I'd been unable to breathe. I grasped my head. I can't see anything. I don't want to see anything. I can't hear anything. I don't want to hear anything. I can't feel anything. I don't want to feel anything. At the very same moment I screamed, the computer that had short-circuited my consciousness had severed. Damn. There is also that whole thing of the crowd coming there. Were they summoned by Shogun? That would mean that he was a part of Nozumi and part of Noah testing then. Because that feels very like mind control like of getting a bunch of people to assemble and scramble across in order to look at this, psychic, kid. That was exactly what happened. I lost consciousness. And then, how had I ended up here at this hospital? I couldn't remember. At the very least, I didn't think I'd come on my own, but maybe I'd been brought to the hospital by an ambulance. Hazuki-san was writing something on the clipboard she was holding. She must have had a slip of paper clipped onto it. Was she writing about my condition? I checked what time it was via the simplistic watch wrapped around her wrist. It was a little after 6 a.m. Sat for a really long time. Regardless, why had I been brought here? Yeah, let's go with a normal delusion here, shall we? Okay, nothing. If Azuki-san was here, then that meant this was my normal hospital. It wasn't like me being brought to a general hospital was particularly weird, but something still didn't feel right. Why was Hazuki-san coming to check up on me? That question really bothered me. I mean, Hazuki-san was a psychiatric nurse. If Hazuki-san was coming to check on me, then that meant that the room I was in was also used by psychiatric patients. Maybe all the normal beds were full because of all the people who had been injured in yesterday's earthquake, and they just happened to put me in one of the beds in the psychiatric ward because of that. Maybe they decided that me collapsing was due to psychological factors rather than physical ones. Well, suppose they wouldn't be wrong then. My mood was gradually getting worse and worse.
昨日ご家族がお見えになっていたんですけど、
Oh,
西条さんの意識が戻らないので、日付が変わる頃にお帰りになりました。
damn, yesterday.
今日は診察時間が始まる頃にお母様が来るそうですよ。
And not in response, not having the energy to say anything back. Mom, sorry for being such a disgrace. I'm an embarrassment to Japan. No, to the entire world. The entire thing had been televised, meaning it had already spread to the entire country. I was sure my shameful behavior had been uploaded to YouTube as well. I had no idea why I'd been made into the amazing Esper boy. And it didn't make any sense to broadcast my every move, and on the day of a huge earthquake no less, when I was nothing but a boring otaku freak. It was normal. Because of that, I couldn't help but think that everyone from back then was being mind-controlled by Shogun. But regardless of whether or not that was true, I still publicly humiliated myself. It wasn't something I'd escape after during a quick shitstorm online that'd be forgotten about in a week. Was this it for me? Would I no longer be able to live in peace? Suddenly, Nanami's face appeared in the back of my mind. I bit down my lip and hugged my knees. Even if that was no longer attainable, as long as I could save Nanami, none of it would matter. Even if people from all over the world snickered at me and called me a pathetic loser for the rest of my life, it would make no difference to me. But I couldn't save her. Couldn't even do that much.
Nana.
Tears began to fall from my eyes.
どうしました？どこか痛みます？
Shaking my head over and over, I kept on crying. Nanami was dead. Nanami was dead, and she was never coming back. It was all my fault, all my fault, all my fault, all my fault. Because of how worthless I was, because of how much of a fucking loser I was, Nanami was dead. Back on that rooftop, I'd given up so easily obtaining the DI sword. I had Zeratan's seductive voice in my ear, but that was just my pathetic self pretending to be someone else. I was the one who made the decision. I made myself look like a pitiful victim. I chosen to sacrifice Nanami so that I would survive. I hated myself. How fucking pathetic I was. If only I just tried just a bit harder. I told myself that I'd given up of my own volition, but now that it was all over, I regretted every single thing I'd done on that rooftop. I was absolutely disgusted with myself. She was gone. Nothing could save her now. And yet, even still, I couldn't help but think that if I could just go back to that rooftop and I just tried a little bit harder. But I knew that even if I actually could go back, I'd just give up all over again, finding some other excuse to get me out of it. That was just who I was. A completely useless, irredeemable piece of shit.
Nanami. ごめん。Nanami.
Hazuzuki-san loved my back in an attempt to comfort me. I was a useless sack of shit to the very end. I was even causing problems for nurses that had nothing to do with me. The tears refused to stop.
何か後悔していることがあるんですね。でもきっと妹さんも許してくれますよ。
What? Huh? How did she know that Nanami was my sister? Even that aside, the four-way consolation she was giving me was the last thing I needed right now. Sorry, Hazuki-san, but no one else can understand how I feel. I hated myself. I was pathetic, did nothing but take advantage of everyone else, and only ever thought about myself. The world would be better off without me. Maybe I should just end it all.
昨日もしきりに西条さんのことを心配していましたよ。とても可愛らしい妹さんですね。
What was she talking about?
ナナミは妹は死にました。
She had been kidnapped by Shogun, her hand had been cut off, then she'd been imprisoned somewhere. And in the end, she died all alone and afraid. When I imagined it, it felt like my heart was being torn into dozens of tiny pieces.
そうなんですか。ごめんなさい、勘違いしてしまって。
All my life, I thought that Nanami was annoying, although we had been siblings for 16 years. Even though she called me a jerk more times than I could count, she was always worried about me. The reason why she always nagged me so much was because she was trying to help me break free from my toxic lifestyle. Whenever she brought me food from my parents' house, she didn't just give it to me and leave, she'd always try to share it with me. Normally, if a girl her age had an otaku freak for a brother, they'd never associate with him. And while the things she said didn't make her the easiest person to be around, she still talked to me, and she would listen too. Whenever I'd been at school, she never avoided me. No, she would actually approach me. No matter what, Nanami had always treated me a vile otaku freak virgin. Like her brother. Like a human being. Her mere existence had helped me more than I ever knew. But realizing that didn't mean no good now, it was too late.
でも、だとしたら鬼ってどういう意味なのかしら。
Huh? I looked up, unable to properly comprehend what I just heard. As my eyes were blurry with tears, I couldn't see Hazuki-san's face properly. What had she just said?
眠ってる西条さんを鬼鬼と何度も呼んでいたから、その印象が強くて。
There was only one person who called me that.
それ本当ですか。
Vaulting out of my bed, I pressed Hazuki-san for an answer.
はい、何がです？
ナナミがナナミがここに来てたんですか。
いえ、はっきりお名前を聞いたわけでは。
僕のこと鬼って呼んでたんですね。
ええ。
ナナミは今どこに。
ですから昨日はお帰りになりましたけど、西条さんのお母様と一緒に。
怪我とかしてませんでしたか。
はい。いえ、特には。
What?
元気だったんですね。ナナミは元気だったんですね。
はい。いえ、ナナミさんかどうかはわかりませんけど、昨日いらしていた女の子は元気そうでしたよ。
Nanami was alive. From everything Hazuki-san had said, it had to be true. Sat down in the bed, utterly dazed. But how? Shogun had said he wouldn't give Nanami back to me until I completed his quest. Had he just released her out of pity? Or had Nanami escaped on her own? But then, how would that explain the hand that had been sent to me? According to Hazuki-san, Nanami hadn't even been injured. So who's...
もしかしたら君の家に送ったあの手首は別人のものかもしれないよ。
Was that even real? What he'd said hadn't been a lie. He'd played me. How about dancing right to his tune? Shogun had deceived me. No, that didn't matter right now.
そっか。
I see. So that was it. It was all coming together. Nanami had never been kidnapped at all. Back when I'd been at Ofront trying desperately to grab the D.I. sword, Nanami must have been relaxing back at home reading manga or going out to karaoke with her friends so she could show off her shitty singing voice or doing whatever else she liked to do. Oh. I was crying, but I couldn't help but laugh.
西条さん？
将軍にまんまと騙された。なんという壮大な釣りだよ。
Epic Bates. She was alive. Nanami was alive. I could see that bratty ass face of hers again. I could hear that obnoxious shrill voice of hers again. The mere thought that was enough to bring me a deep sense of relief and intense joy that rose from the bottom of my heart.
よかった。
I couldn't stop crying, but the tears were the tears of regret I'd been crying earlier.
よかった。
I was an utterly useless pile of shit, but I couldn't help it. The day before, I'd given up without being able to do anything. But even so, as long as Nanami was alive, I didn't wish for anything else. The whole world could mock me until the end of time. For all I cared, I was overjoyed. Thank God she was safe. Okay. So she must have lost her phone then. Okay, ooh, shit. Then it's either one of two things. Either Shogun cut off somebody else's hand, or it was not even a real hand to begin with. Could have been a prop. Like, that shit exists. Yet another meeting had been called in the main conference room of the Shibuya Police Department, joining one of multiple others that had been held today. The exhausted, fed-up detectives all wondered how many more hours worth of unproductive meetings they would be forced to sit through. Masunaga was about to start hearing the reports from each investigator when suddenly Ban hesitantly stood up and raised his hand.
ちょっといいですかね。
なんだね。
Well, I saw this, weird-ass footage of a girl with a giant sword, and she, like, disappeared or whatever. I feel like I should share with the rest of the department. Inquisitive eyes and expressions rendered on Ban, not just from Natsunaga, but from Suwa and the detective sitting next to him as well. Ban smiled his usual flippant smile, quickly bowed his head, and looked around the room.
先日インターネット上に投稿されたいわゆる集団ダイブの映像についてなんですが、実はちょっとした発見をしまして。
Oh.
え？
The surprise on Suwa's face was evident. In all likelihood, he was surprised. After all, Ban had examined that video without saying a word to him. It was not because he had wanted to keep it a secret from him, however, no.
バン警部補、君は確か貼り付けの捜査担当だったはずだが、なぜ集団ダイブについて調べている？
This was the reason. Ban had disregarded the orders he had been given by his boss, the head of the investigation team. Ban had involved Suwa, promising the detective his partner would have inevitably been harshly rebuked by their boss. Ban wanted to avoid this.
まあ、とりあえず見てくださいって。
With a chuckle, Ban took out 2 enlarged photos from a file he held in his hand and attached them to the blackboard with magnets.
これはどっちも集団ダイブの現場となったコーネリアスタワー屋上の写真です。右の写真は例のミュウツベ投稿映像から抜き出したもの。左のは昨日の夜、私がタワー屋上に行って撮ってきたものになります。何か違いに気づきませんか？あ、
No large tower? Yeah, wait. The entire conference room began to stir. Yeah, there's like a gigantic skyscraper where there isn't. The other photo.
背景がね、違うんです。投稿映像のカメラは北東へ向かってる。5人が転落したのが北東だったから間違いない。で、映像では3分29秒から 約15秒間カメラが左右へ大きく触れるんですが、その時に東に向いた時の映像がこの右側の写真なわけです。コーネリアスタワーの東、つまり六本木方面ですね。東京タワーが夜景の中にしっかり映ってる。高いから目立ちますね。でもね、もう一つよく目立つものが映ってないんですよ。
Ben's eyes narrowed as he combed his beard with his fingers, and then a wide smile appeared on his lips.
六本木ビルズですよ。
It was true. The whites of Wapuni bills could not be seen in the photo he had taken from the uploaded video. But in the photo Ben had taken the day prior, the whites of Wapuni bills' many windows were clearly visible along with Tokyo Tower.
で、たまたま見つけたんですが、コーネリアスタワーのホテルロビーにタワー完成当時のパネルが展示してありましてね。そのパネルの一つがこれ。
Ben retrieved a new photo from the file and pinned it next to the previous two. There was also a picture of the Wilpong area taken from the rooftop of the tower, but it was not a picture taken at night, it was one taken at day.
六本木ビルズが映ってますよね。建設中ですが。
The commotion in the conference room grew even louder. Matsunaga, meanwhile, remained silent as he stared at the photo with a stern expression.
コーネリアスタワーの完成は2001年。六本木ビルズの完成は2003年。タワー完成当時の写真では当然ながら六本木ビルズは建設中でまだ高さもほとんどない。だが集団ダイブが起きたのは今年2008年だ。映ってなきゃおかしいですよね。六本木ビルズ。
Yeah, so what the fuck? What? What the fuck does this mean? So the... Okay. Okay, so I see, okay. So in this photo with Wappongi Bills, I'm guessing is this giant skyscraper here. That's what Ban took. Well, in the video, it's just not there. So, what the fuck does this mean? What the fuck is going on? Is this video from an alternate reality? But like, shit, maybe the video could be from a different reality. The suicide still happened in this world, but maybe it's not the exact footage where Wapogni Bills just was never built. You know, a small change like that, just like one single building just never built. What the fuck?
ちなみに投稿映像に細工された形跡はなかった。
つまり何が言いたいんだ。
Having seemingly lost patience with the detective, Matsunaga urged him onward discontentedly.
非常に言いにくいんですが。
It was faked?
まさか先輩、この映像が撮られたのは2003年以前、つまり5年以上前って言いたいんですか？
Dang it, Sua. Dang it, Sua. Bane's shoulders slumped dejectedly. The young detective's keen insight was brilliant. Sua had said exactly what Bane had intended to say. However, having it said aloud in such a straightforward manner only made the calm appear all the more dubious. Bane's careful planning on how to articulate his points had been all for nothing.
バカバカしい。小説の読みすぎではないがね。
If it's Turkey... so, wait. Huh. But here's the thing. It was taken earlier. Wouldn't there be reports of a suicide? Unless that was covered up. But it was that... So, are they recreating the new gen murders now? Like, is this a phenomenon that happens every year, but it just gets covered up by, like, the Committee of 300 or whatever the fuck, so they can keep testing out Noah? Is that what it is? But why? Maybe the reason why they keep doing it over and over again, because it's the only way to rile up the public in order to get public unrest, in order to exploit the perception of people by coming up with this quote-unquote new-gen phenomenon. Maybe that's why they keep on doing it. Shit, what the fuck?
映像に映っている被害者5人の顔は一致しているんだ。あれが5年前のもののはずがない。そんなつまらないことを調べている暇があったら、聞き込みの一つでもしたらどうだ、警部補。
ああ。
今のは聞かなかったことにする。それと、後で話があるから会議が終わったら残りたまえ。
After letting out a short sigh, Ban gave up and sat back down. Well, it's not like I expected them to believe me. Bitter and unwilling to accept defeat, Ban muttered that inside his head before returning to listlessly fanning his face with his handheld fan. And yet, despite all the work he had done, if one were to ask what the absence of well-pointed bills in the video signified, Ban would be unable to answer. What does that mean, indeed? What the fuck? After I found out that Nanami was alive, the doctor came to me and asked me a few simple questions. They wanted to make sure whether or not I was well enough to leave. I answered the questions to the best of my ability, then opted to leave the hospital before my mom came back. After that disgraceful behavior it showed off in front of the entire country, how was I supposed to face my family now? And if Nanami were to come back, I knew that I'd be so happy and immediately burst into tears all over again. And then, since she wouldn't know why I was crying, Nanami would then take it seriously and start yelling at me not to worry about her, probably while calling me an idiot too. When I thought about that, I nearly fainted from the sheer embarrassment. So instead of letting that happen, I decided to employ a strategic retreat. The nurse brought in the most disgusting breakfast of all time, and after chipping away at it slightly, I snuck out of the hospital room. I made my way down to the first floor and then to the lobby. The clinic hadn't opened yet, so the lobby that was usually packed with old people was completely deserted. I confidently walked towards the front entrance. Luckily for me, the automatic door opened, giving me free rein to exit the building. The hospital staff might have gotten angry with me for leaving without asking them first, but I had to stay away from the hospital until everything calmed down. As for the medical fees, I left my mom a note telling her to go ahead and pay for it, so it should be fine. Despite the fact that I had stayed overnight at the hospital, I wasn't exhibiting any actual symptoms, and my mental state was doing much better after I learned that Nami was alive. Making sure to keep an eye out for any ambushes by Shogun or Yua, quickly made my way back to my base. I made it back. The mental state had done a complete 180 since I'd last been on my base. Of course, I was feeling a lot better now. If only I could have let my past self know that. You let yourself get beat. You let yourself get beat up far too often, mate. Bait too far too often, mate. I rate 88. Mate, there's no reason for you to get so wild up, dude. Nanami's fine. Well, times 100. Or something along those lines. Thinking back on it, yesterday really had been living hell. Everything had just gone to shit. I got a weird phone call in the morning, then there had been an earthquake. Then the data on my hard drive had disappeared, then I had to witness Elise trying to off herself right in front of me. Then I got an email from Shogun, then he sent me a severed hand. Severed goddamn hand. My mood plummeted in an instant. With a gulp, I turned my attention to the fridge. Shit. That's where the hand is. Before I left yesterday, I decided in my maniacal state to just put the hand in the fridge for the time being. If I left it out somewhere, I could have started rotting. The smell of blood was also way too strong for me. there were all sorts of sci-fi anime movies where as long as they remained frozen, people could stay in a state of suspended animation for hundreds of years. So that was pretty much what I was going for. I thought that if I could keep Nanami's arm fresh, she might have been able to get it surgically reconnected once she was back home safe. But if that wasn't Nanami's hand, then who the hell did it belong to? And how would that explain the cell phone in the bangle? If I wasn't missing something, then it had to belong to Nanami. When I called her, I'd one on the cell phone held in the hand. Or maybe I'd been all just part of Shogun's trap. Was it even possible to make such a perfect replica of Nanami's arm?
もう一度確かめてみるべきかも。
In truth, I really didn't want to. The entire hand thing grossed me out. Just thinking about it made me want to puke, even if it did belong to Nanami. But that didn't mean I could just keep it in my fridge forever. Not even besides deprive cola stay that cold in it. I considered asking the police to come take it, but then I realized that they just suspect me of being the new-gen culprit, even more than they already did, that is. It would practically be suicide to dial 110 and go, "Yes, hello, yes, please come and take this person's severed hand off my hands, thank you." What should I do? Should I just throw it away? But supposing it wasn't Nanami's arm, it really didn't sound like a good idea to throw it away. Hell, were you even allowed to throw away human hands like that? Did they constitute as burnable or non-burnable trash? I tore my hair. There's no point continuing to torture myself over it. I'd just go ahead and check one more time that the bangle was on her wrist and that she was holding her cell phone. Was it Nanami's or was it someone else's? That was the question I hoped to answer. I stood in front of the refrigerator and gripped the handle. I closed my eyes. I took 1, then 2, then 3 deep breaths. Is that a fucking Rika Buddy outfit figure? Anyway. Unsurprisingly, the temptation to just call Remy and ask her to do it for me crept up in my mind, but I quickly shook it away. No matter how good of an ally Remy was to me, there's no way she wouldn't freak out upon finding someone's hand in my fridge, and then if I managed to fuck up the explanation, she'd fall out of love with me and then turn me into the police. I was going to have to do this on my own, somehow.
くそ。
I clenched my teeth, took two more deep breaths, and then I yanked on the handle with all my might. I'm gonna bet there's no fucking hand.
あれ
What? Just oranges. It was empty. Entirely empty. Is that tangerines or oranges? I thought for sure that I put the hand in there yesterday. Been wrapped in aluminum foil. It should have been on the top shelf. And yet, there was no sign of it. All that was there was a few bottles of cola and a bunch of rotten clementines. Nothing else.
消えた。なんで
Just like that, it was completely gone. I crouched down and looked farther into the refrigerator, but of course it still wasn't there. There wasn't much in there to begin with, so it was already practically empty. There's no way I could have missed it.
昨日ここに入れたよな。
Either it never existed, or someone took it. Those are the only two explanations. What the fuck? And maybe I just assumed that in reality I just left it somewhere. I closed the fridge door, then looked around my trash-filled room.
段ボールもない。
The large cardboard box with the hand inside of it. What had I done with it? I felt like I tossed it into the corner of my room or something, but either way, my memory of last night was very unclear. More things had happened yesterday than my poor brain could handle, and everything was made all the more brutal due to the other chaos of it all. Calm down, just calm down and get your thoughts together. Think of why it might have disappeared. I booted up the word processor in my PC and wrote down all the possibilities I could think of. My base had been locked ever since yesterday, so if someone really wanted to, they could have come right in and taken it without much trouble. That would also be consistent with how Shogun had been able to put that hand in my room in the first place. Or maybe it was 2. My memory of when I left my base to go to Oakrun was unclear. Yeah, there was a big time skip. The feeling that I had to save Nanami, seeing the severed hand, how terrified I was of Shogun, all those emotions swirled around me, invading each and every corner of my mind. I couldn't calm down at all. Maybe I just left my base and tossed the hand in a dumpster somewhere without knowing it. Or maybe the whole hand thing in journal had been just a delusion. It didn't actually exist at all. But when I went to check my email, I found that the one I got from Shogun yesterday did in fact exist. And in that email, he clearly stated that the hand was a present. Not to mention that Shogun himself had talked about it yesterday. Just couldn't believe that had just been a delusion. Okay, then what about the possibility that the police or the media took it? Those people looked at otaku freaks like we were no better than shit smeared on the bottom of their shoes, so it wouldn't surprise me. After everything that happened yesterday, I was afraid to look at the internet, and yet in the end I couldn't help myself, so I clicked open my browser. Here we go. First, I checked the news section of Taboo, as well as the news sites I would typically go to. Oh boy. And sure enough, there were articles upon articles about the uproar yesterday at Scramble Crossing. The expert show held by the new generation boy ended in the worst possible way. Response to a seismic intensity 5 earthquake that struck at noon on October 27th, several news stations, including MHK, BTS, and TV Sunset, broadcasted breaking news reports. Today, TV and Fujishin TV, meanwhile, began broadcasting simultaneous coverage of both the earthquake and the expert show starting at 9 p.m. Following this, the two stations were immediately flooded with call after call protesting this decision. When faced with a disappointing end to the show, the nearly 5,000 fans that had crowded in front of Shibuya Station all began to boo loudly for over an hour, some fans even fighting amongst themselves. The situation resulted in 13 separate arrests. Jesus. The commotion began with a prank email sent by a boy, hereby referred to as N, living in Shibuya Ward. At first, news stations were skeptical of the email, which claimed that the boy was a clairvoyant. Esper could see the culprit behind the new gen madness, the popular name for a series of brutal incidents taking place in Shibuya. However, when American psychic detective Yuri Brightman, age 43, informed Today TV and Fujishin TV that he would be willing to become the boy's legal guardian, both stations immediately took him at his word, or so the story goes. What the fuck? The ratings for both Today TV and Fujishin TV were extraordinary, with the highest simultaneous viewership exceeding 40%. Damn. These are astonishing figures, surpassing even that of Kohaku ringing in the new year, although these figures may only be for the simultaneous broadcast with the earthquake report. The broadcast was obviously a huge success in terms of viewership. However, the boy starring in the show, N, did not turn out to be an Esper. He repeatedly wowed up the audience by motioning like he was going to jump off the building, but his performance did not extend beyond that. Undeterred, the media companies dared to go up on the rooftop to report on the situation and attempt to get a comment about the new-gen incidents, but they were unsuccessful. The boy was found collapsed on the rooftop holding a moe anime figure and a costume from a popular Hollywood film. According to otaku culture expert Professor Hashibiya Yoshiro of Messai University, there has been a rapid increase in the number of young people who dream of becoming heroes, but in the pursuit of this dream act with no regard to the world around them. Under the influence of anime, video games, and other similarly damaging media, they have lost the ability to distinguish between fantasy and reality. This is likely what is causing them to act in such a way. They require psychological care. I didn't send any emails to the media. I never even seen Yuri Brightman's show. I don't met him. So what the hell? Was this all just part of Shogun's plan like I originally thought? What was his ultimate goal here? He'd said something about it being a quest or something. Okay, then what was the point of having the mass media televise me trying to get my hands on a sword? I didn't get it. What was Shogun trying to accomplish? He'd even released Nami alive. Girls with big tits. What a great... I just saw that on the sidebar. Oh, gee. Can't wait to go on the fucking news website. Let's see. We got sports, economy, weather, and, oh, here we go. My favorite was girls with big tits. Here we go. There are just some funny fucking images in this game. I swear, dude. These fucking background CGs are so fucking funny. I followed the links to various articles, but even after reading through all of them, not a single one of them mentioned Shogun. There had been practically no gap at all between when I tackled Shogun and when the media had come bursting onto the rooftop. Even if Shogun had managed to escape during that window, the media would have seen him. And not only that, but Shogun was supposed to be stuck in a wheelchair. He was supposed to be paralyzed, so there was absolutely no way he would have been able to escape the rooftop in such a limited time frame. I went on to check at channel, and to no one's surprise, an enormous shitstorm was going on. My real name was being plastered everywhere. Here we go. The uniform that Nishijou dumbass was walking is from Subaru, isn't it? Are there any Subaru students in this room right now? That guy's a term. An old fucktard. Do us all a favor and off yourself, you piece of human trash. Nishijou, you need to chill the fuck out, fuck's sake. But your fault if Otaku start getting beat up again. They found him carrying a figure wall? It was a goddamn Seritan blood tube figure. Wow, what the fuck? And just like that... is this all from the same guy? I think it... No, it's different people. And just like that, otaku freaks around the world all just shit it to you. This Nishijou fucker should have just stayed inside like the shut-in he is. TV's not for him. Oh. Sarah would be like, Nishijou, you big dumb. Time for me to kick your fat butt with my wicked form rocket body blow attack. Old. Some rando who was a classmate of his was. You already came out and doxed the guy. Damn. Everyone was just saying whatever the hell they wanted to. They weren't even considering how I felt as they talked all this shit about me. And that's hearing it for you. Having that channel as your enemy was a scary thing. And it was all Shogun's fault I was in this mess. I was wondering if anybody had leaked any sensitive information onto ad channel. Stuff that couldn't be aired on TV, but I couldn't find anything that fit that criteria. I had been alone on that rooftop. I had been one more person. Yet not a shred of information had come out about them. It was almost like the being known as Shogun had never been there in the first place. Maybe the Shogun that appeared on the rooftop was just an illusion. Maybe even if I know for a fact that he exists, there's a possibility that the Shogun I saw at Ophorn was just a delusion I created.
僕はやっぱり病気なのかも。
There were so many things happening that shouldn't have been possible in real life. It was more like a video game at this point. Like there were two worlds, one where Nanami was alive and one where she was dead. And the two options were running parallel to one another, meaning I got to choose between them, just like a choice you find in a loge. The future was divided into countless different branches. And what made me different from normal people is that I could simulate what story events might occur using my delusions, and I was in the middle of simulating the route that would lead to the bad ending. Shit, maybe. Like one where Nanami died, or one where I at least jumped to her death, or one where I fell off front and died. In other words, for some reason, all these things that you normally find in the bad ending route could be coming after me, almost like they were hunting me down due to a trap I myself had set. Maybe I just had the desire to leave behind my boring, uneventful life and go to a more exciting world, like one from a game. Because of that, I'd been unconsciously showing myself what that would look like. That couldn't be it. I didn't have any desires even remotely like that. Or at the very least, I would never want to make myself go through anything that would make me feel sad or scared, simulation or not.
っていうか、どれだけ想像力豊かなんだよ。
What I'd been considering was nothing more than some childish bullshit delusion I'd come up with without thinking. I sighed, leaned back in my chair, and looked up the ceiling with a blank stare in my face. Reality isn't set in stone. Anything and everything just felt fake. The world I was living in was completely hollow. New Gen 6 case confirmed. Woman in her 20s found dead in Shibuya River, Shibuya Ward on October 28th. The woman died of asphyxiation after consuming the flesh of her own right hand and choked on a bone that lodged itself in her throat?
今日午後8時頃、渋谷区の渋谷川で女性の変死体が発見されました。
Oh shit.
被害者は江戸川区に住む十勝あやみさん27歳で、死因は 喉を詰まらせたことによる窒息死とみられています。警察の調べによりますと、被害者の右手の肉が削り取られて骨が露出しており、また胃の中からは人間の肉とみられる内容物が見つかりました。
Jesus, not cut off, scraped off, so.
被害者は自らの右手を噛みちぎって食べたとみられ、また足首が紐で縛られていたとのことです。
Jesus.
警察では自殺・他殺の両面から捜査を進めています。
1 group dive, 2 man child, 3 crucifixion, 4 vampires, 5 numbskull, 6 finger food. Ever since the seismic intensity 5 earthquake, the city of Shibuya had been overwrought with an air of pure bloodlust. The sense of order in the city had been visibly deteriorating. This decrease in security was not just regarding fights among young people, but the increasing number of store windows being broken as well as a large surge in theft. Damn. The media continued to use the term new generation in order to establish a feeling of crisis and entrapment. In response to such fear-mongering, a handful of stores had abruptly ceased operations. In addition, a group calling themselves the Anti-New Gen had suddenly transformed into a riotous mob during one of their weekly demonstrations, charging the Shibuya police station and resulting in the arrest of over 100 people. God, it is... Shibuya is just getting more and more... The more and more we go into this, the more and more fucked up Shibuya becomes. Probably due to Nozumi. But yeah, I mean, just more civil unrest, really. Much like the Esper Boy riot, thousands upon thousands of curious onlookers gathered in the area in order to enjoy yet another shitstorm. There was a striking difference in excitement between those who were visiting the city and those who lived in it. The former expected Shibuya to be more brutally eventful than ever, while the latter condemned the lawlessness of their home and insisted on strengthening police authority. Then, as if to mock all of the uproar, the 6th New Gen incident occurred, and of course the perpetrator yet to be apprehended. Okay, so I feel like this is a good stopping point right here, folks. As, we're trying to calm down and Nanami's actually alive. So that's good, but the question is, was that hand actually there or not? Or did somebody steal it? And it just seems like things are just getting worse and worse and worse in Shibuya. How can we stop it? I don't think Takumi's going to stop this at all. At least not in this route. That's right. This is going to be a bad ending. I'm going to tell you right now, I feel like this first route is going to be a bad ending 100%. Because we're not really making any progress. We're just going in circles as the city just, de-evolves. Not de-evolves, but like, as shit escalates more and more and more. It's just more questions than answers. Like, what do you mean the group dive didn't have, like, a visible building in the footage? Did it come from an alternate universe, or was it filmed before 2003? But if it was filmed before 2003, like filmed in 2002, then why re-upload it? Why recreate the same ones? And the same victims were exactly the exact same in both footages, so, like, was that one faked? Well, why take out a prominent building if... There's just so many fucking questions. Like, and also, how was the DL sword ever able to appear in the footage that Ban was able to see it? It was recorded. So that means it exists. It actually exists if it was able to be recorded. Alright? That is an important fucking thing. It was able to be recorded. So, like, let's say... Okay, so that brings up the question. of, let's say you get out of the city of Shibuya with a DL sword. Would other people be able to see it? Is it only the people in Shibuya unable to see the sword? Is that it? That has to be it. If it's able to be filmed, that means it's real. Alright? It's 100% real. Wasn't edited at all. It's only the people being controlled by Nozomi or by Noah that they're unable to see these DL swords at all. God, there's just so much to like consider. There's just so much to mull over. Yet I can't really come up with anything. That's the problem. Like we're not that deep into this game at all, really, because I can't come up with any solutions. Really, all I have is just guesses, speculation. Really, that's all I can get is like my best possible guess is that I'm uncertain about fucking anything by this point. All I'm really certain about is that there is brainwashing going on with Nozomi and Noah. That I know for sure. And that Aoi is trying to fight it back against the guys with the Luxacs with them that's spreading the brainwashing. Oh, it's not brainwashing really, but perspective changing. But yeah, brainwashing is just an easier term to use here. But that's the only two things I'm sure of. That really is. Besides that, I have no idea what the hell is going on. Like, who Shogun truly is. Is he like the second personality of Takumi? Or does he actually exist? Is Shogun supposed to... maybe Shogun is supposed to represent Takumi's willingness to become something more than an otaku freak. While Saratan represents the opposite. The no safe space of go back into your room and just keep going as your existence. And there's that whole thing about Takumi creating that flower bed in order to protect Elise. Like, there was just so much shit that it's there, and I could say it over and over again, but I'm not going to come up with an answer. Because I don't have answers. I don't have the means to create an answer yet. But who knows? Who knows? Hopefully, as we get more and more into this, I'm able to discover the means of which I can answer these questions. But for right now, I'm as in the dark as anyone else is, really. Pretty much as in the dark with Takumi here. But yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, hit the like button. Want to tell me something? Put it down in the comments below. Check out Discord server or my Twitter. Check the description below. And yeah, this has been Voidlego. I'll see you guys next time. See ya!